Well, I guess it's about that time, Brian. We ought to pick up our main event, AEW Dynamite, for February the 19th from Phoenix, Arizona. Actually, Glendale, Arizona. How far is that from Phoenix? Do we know as the vulture flies? Is it somewhere in the metropolitan area, or are they trying to zoom us again? Like suburban Nashville was Clarksville.
I was trying to look this up. There are five
I
ways
thought
to.
you had a summer place out in Arizona.
It's 10 miles.
Ted, well, that ain't bad, especially if you're driving. The Arizona Financial Theater, it looked like an airplane hangar draped in black sheets behind the ring because it's a theater. They have all the seats like a movie theater on one side. So the sweeping crowd shot of that looked great. But then when they shot the ring, they just had to cover the rest of it up with black, right? The blank walls.
The sweeping crowd shot looked amazing. I love that look of just endless rows going all the way back. I think that looks so cool. And unfortunately, it was only on, well, I mean, they'd be lucky if it was on two sides or three sides.
Well, but I'm not trying to pick everything.
Good.
We said they ought to run smaller buildings, but they couldn't get far enough back on the other side from the ring to have a real good hard camera shot of that. So they had to either shoot some of the blank walls on the other side or shoot the crowd, one or the other, but sometimes not both. Or one from column A and two from column B.
But like you said, we've been saying they have to run smaller buildings. This is the reality of smaller buildings. Some of them are not really configured for boxing or wrestling or anything to be filmed that way.
Yeah.
So you take what you can get. Again, at least on one side, you had a great look. It looked really cool from a certain angle.
From a certain, yeah. What if you laid down on your back and put one leg up in the air and balanced your elbow just right? It looked great. But anyway, the opening segment. I swear to God, it's a real roller coaster, this opening segment, because they managed to take something that I wasn't really interested in seeing, started getting me interested in seeing it, and then by the time they finished off, I was less interested in seeing it than I was when they started. How long did this go?
I think it was like 20 minutes.
It seemed like days. And again, MJF, they have, I mean, he's trying. He and Hangnail Adam Page were going to have a face-off, a confrontation. They were going to air out the grievances. And the announcers made sure to tell us during MJF's entrance that he and Page are not allowed to touch. If they get in a fight, there's going to be fines, suspensions. This is the same thing as the no interference rule in the Intercontinental, what title is it? Whatever. Where they say in those matches, there's no outside interference allowed. There's supposed to be normally no outside interference allowed. If they can stop it here, they can stop it there. If they can stop it at once, they can stop it for all. Why do they set the precedent that all this tomfoolery could be stopped if they just say, you're not allowed to do this? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and we had just talked about recently how it only works in certain scenarios and it's overdone. The idea that here are the two guys and they're going to stand in opposite corners and just give speeches to the other one about a variety of things, apparently.
And you have to listen. You have to stand there and listen, and then you'll get your chance to respond. There's not even a representative of the promotion, the announcer holding the microphone, some general manager in to keep any order. It's just two guys running each other down endlessly because that's what they see on the WWE programs, and that's what they're trying to do. But the problem is, all the guys that are allowed to talk for 20 minutes in the WWE are over as fuck to a big audience who wants to hear this shit and understands what they're talking about. And they like it. And even then, sometimes it's burdensome on us, as we've joked about the wrestling matches getting in the way of the oratory. But yes, MJF can talk his ass off, but god damn, you need two to tango or Watusi or whatever. And then you need somebody to either MJF can write his own material, but he's got to have a direction, and you got to have somebody write for this other fucking guy. And he sounds like that he set like a book report in 10th grade overnight writing this that he thought would sound, I'm talking about Hangnail, that he thought would sound literate and flowery, and the verbiage is just as grandiose. And he's fucking fake, and he doesn't use words like that in real life. If he does, he's a fucking nerd. And I didn't care. Then MJF started talking, and I kind of started, okay, this might not be bad. And then by the time that Paige had finished and they both had rebutted the rebuttal, I was like, God damn. I mean, MJF started talking after nobody said anything while they just stared at each other. Then MJF started back in 2019, and already I was like, oh God. Paige cost MJF the Casino Battle Royal and the shot at the title. So MJF beat all of the fans' favorite wrestlers, including Paige, for the first time he won the Diamond Ring. And he main evented Wembley, and he won the world title because he's better than you, because he's MJF and you know it, or whatever the fuck. Okay, that's fine. And then Paige responds, and he does the complete babyface promo about how that he worked for everything. At least he may have done some horrible things, but he's had some kind of moral compass when he was burning people's homes down and terrorizing. But MJF can't be happy because he hasn't won something from the fans, and he's starting to allude that MJF has not won the fans' respect. And MJF does the thing where he flips out and screams, shut up, and then he catches himself like, oh my God, I've lost control. The problem I have with this is, while yes, he's trying to plant the subliminal message that he's secretly so insecure and that people can hit his button's too touchy, Brian. Was there any reason for anybody that was trying to hide any inner emotion to flip the fuck out at that vague illusion, is what I'm asking you. That's the question.
You wouldn't think so, but I guess the vague illusion is supposed to be part of a bigger picture where MJF seeks the approval of the masses, which causes him to do the wrong thing in terms of good versus bad all the time.
Yeah. It's
went,
too much.
you know what? It went too much in the direction of emotions again. Like it just,
yes.
not just with MJF and Adam Page, both. They both needed like a restart in terms of attitude. And this went a long time, and I'll let you keep going.
Hold on now, because we haven't got to the rebuttal of the rebuttal, because MJF responded to the response with all the dirty stuff that Page had done, and the people cheered him, including burning Swerve's house down, and the people chanted, or not chanted, but cheered. They were chanting cowboy shit, and by the time MJF got finished here, so he accomplished that. But they cheered the mention of Adam Page burning down another one of the babyface's houses. This is the amount of control that they have fucking lost. And then MJF says, they love you, but do you love you? Do you love you because what you did to Christopher Daniels? Because they said Page ended Daniels' career. Well, then Page got pissed off about that and said, I would give Chris Daniels my own spine if I could. What the fuck? Then why'd you fucking hurt him? And he put Daniels over. He said he died a warrior's death. If people didn't know the story, they would think they're talking about a dead person. He did. Wait a minute. Are they trying to say he killed Christopher Daniels? Because no mention was made until we see him here in a minute that Daniels was still alive. Because Page, instead of saying, I didn't mean to break his neck, he said he died a warrior's death. You say that all the time in fucking heated conversation with somebody you don't like. And then Paige started rambling again about how great Daniels was, to the point that he was losing the people. There was a small fall, an angel chant, but he was losing the point of what they were trying to do here. Daniels was a side note to the where they were going, and they took the turn and went to check in at the motor lodge. And then Paige asks, what would the fans say about you, MJF, if you died tomorrow, if your career was over tomorrow, and it blah, blah, blah. And that's what I jotted down. I said, MJF had me and kind of the fans interested in this. And the longer that Paige talked, the less interested I'm at. And the verbose and flowery verbiage turned into a bad actor. MJF answered him back again, made fun of Paige being a child and naive. And then he went into a soliloquy about how Paige came in 2019 and was pushed from the start and given the ball to run with, even though MJF has always been better. And then they built up to a big exchange where MJF said, name one thing you do better than me. And Paige's response was, I am real. Okay, we phrased it in the form of a question. And that's a great statement, and it was in a fake tone, by the way. But it's not the answer. Name one thing you do better than me. The answer is not I am real. That's not a thing I do better.
This comes on the heels of announcing that someone died a warrior's death.
Yes. And then they had a long face-off where they got an even smaller cowboy shit chant. And then MJF finished up with, I've got no problem being the bad guy. But it was just back of so long. Then they took their jackets off and threatened to fight. But security came out, but they couldn't touch each other. MJF spit in Paige's face and ran off. And so Paige started beating up security until Chris Daniels returned from the grave and came out looking chipper and stopped him. And then the fans were chanting Fallen Angel louder than they'd been chanting cowboy shit. And then Daniels gave Paige a pep talk. You're better than this. He's not who you are. And by the time they walked off, like you said, we were 20 minutes into this thing. It's just on and on. They feel like they have to. It was not counting commercials, they talked the length of a 30-minute sitcom. And
I thought they were going to go Broadway.
You know what? That's what they ought to do sometime. Just have a 2-hour interview segment.
We have standby matches. We didn't know this would keep going, and it keeps going. We'll be back.
But anyway, to talk me down off the ledge.
I wish I could. The length was probably the single biggest issue, because the length caused a whole lot of superfluous stuff to be thrown in this. Then it was all over the place. The reasoning was all over the place. Whatever this is was all over the place. Hangman, who completely seems like you don't want to say a gimmick, because he's not like interesting like a gimmick, but he doesn't seem real. And then he says, I am real.
In a fake way.
Like, who thought this was a good idea? That's what gets me, is was this a compromise? Did they ask him what he wanted to do and he said, I want to talk like this? Who thought any of that was a good idea? You know, I think they also have a problem where MJF, specifically, I don't know about Adam Page, MJF's usually responsible for one of the better quarters if he's in a quarter on a show. I can understand maybe wanting him to take up the entire quarter so that it would do that, but this went forever. Like I said, I thought it was going to go Broadway. About 15 minutes in, I didn't know when this was going to end. And then it finally ended, and they went to a really, really, really long match right after it. But I want to be excited to see these two wrestle. It's coming on the heels of all this. Where did Jeff Jarrett go? Is he gone? Did they just remove him from all of this?
I don't know, but I think you hit on something there, though. I want to see Paige and MJF wrestle. I want to see him wrestle more now if they will wrestle instead of talking again. Can we make that trade? Don't let Paige talk anymore. And I saw Jeff this morning.
What?
I had a glass of milk. See, see now you got to be a certain age,
You
and
know, I'm not a fan of Jeff Jarrett's, you know that, but I'm always honest about his good matches or good things. That would kind of suck if his last thing on national TV was that really bad promo. Like,
ugh.
there has to be some. I'm sure they're going to do something with him. It couldn't
Well,
just be.
yeah, they announced this big year he's going to have to prove himself. It's not even the end of February. We have to see him again, don't we?
No, they
Jesus
removed him from
Christ.
TV before the end of February. I don't know. Well, back to Dynamite. A wonderful show on Dynamite. Let's talk about who was there.
Yeah, they didn't have a long match right after. They went to the Grand Slam package. So you can see how glorious the program was that lost 75% of its audience over the course of the 2 hours. And then they went to Christian, Nick Plain, and Pip Sabian against the team of Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shapoopy, who are now known as the Ops, OPPS. The Ops. Who has a special forces operation background here? This is another shooting group. Since the Blackpool Combat Club did so good, Samoa Joe is back in the ring on television, and as bereft as they are in this company of any major talent for the world title picture or the top singles spots, and he's having six mans involving Shapoopy and Pip Sabian, among others. Did you watch this? Because I didn't.
I didn't. It was a combination of my boredom with the patriarchy and Samoa Joe. It's like a bad A team, you know. We take this man, we put him with a kid and a man with no brain or a removed brain. His brain was returned and now he's with Joe. Whatever the fuck it is. They have all these.
Return to sender, brain unknown.
They have all these factions, and now they got to the point where they just throw anyone together and put a stupid name on it, like the conglomeration, which was basically who's not booked. Put them together. Now you're a group. Samoa Joe has value on his own. Whatever Hook's value is, you got to work on that. And you need stars now, and you need to develop stars. But this ain't gonna cause Hook or Shibata to become stars. So Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe should be. He's a schmo. Joe Schmo sponsors Samoa Joe. He should be used a lot better.
What happened to the Joe Schmo show? There was 2 episodes, and I've not seen it again.
They moved it to another time slot,
so people would see the first 5 minutes of it, I guess. And Renee Moxley Good was in the back with Chris Jericho. Now he's not doing the silly voice. It's still silly promo, but he's not doing the silly voice now because now it says he's not getting the respect for the size of star that he is, and he threatened to have Renee Moxley Good thrown out of the arena, and was kind of pissed off. Bandito beat him in the Australian Grand Slam match or whatever in the Ring of Honor portion. So now Bandito gets a title shot at the Ring of Honor title on Collision against Jericho. That was, boy, howdy. And then he got bleeped for saying, I'm Chris fucking Jericho. But they bleeped Jericho because nobody wants to hear a word like that. So is he dropping this thing now? Thank God that he's buried everybody involved in it. With the hi guys, is he getting back to being just a pissy, whiny, bitchy type of fellow?
I think, you joke about MJF. You want to talk about someone who really wants people's approval. I think it's bothered Chris Jericho when people criticize some of the stuff that he personally liked that was terrible. And I think the number of people that are doing that are more now than ever before, that are at least paying attention to what he's doing. Not too many AEW fans like this learning tree shit. Even with the Observer fans. Did it win worst gimmick? Was that what? I think that's what won worst gimmick.
Did it win or just place highly? I don't want to be incorrect.
I'm not sure, but the point is there isn't an audience for it. No one wants to see it. Chris Jericho needs a run where he's serious and not someone pretending to be serious. I just don't know if that's going to come out of this. I'd like to put the Jericho team in a feud with the Death Riders and just let them kind of ride that out on Collision. That'd be my personal pick.
Matter versus antimatter. Well, speaking of
But Jericho's a non-entity right now, and I think everyone
yeah,
kind of knows that. And he's paid as a much bigger star than he currently is, and he had a lot of value early on. But he's a non-entity, and most people don't want to see him anymore.
but otherwise everything's cool.
There's still time.
There's still time. He's only 57 or whatever. Uh Here's what I couldn't watch this match, but I couldn't turn away from the idea that they did it. Powerhouse Hobbs versus Big Bill. Hobbs, again, but time is ticking now. It's running out. He's had money written all over him since he was a rookie, but he's never been booked, trained, brought along, coached, or managed, developed, as Gary Hart would say. He's been in and out and put in stupid positions and made to do stupid things, made to look like an idiot. Big Bill, I don't think has the upside that Hobbs has, but he's got a lot more upside than most of these yahoos. Definitely what they stuck in the main event on this program. And so they put him in what did they even call it? Another anything goes street fight, no DQ, no count out, shove a dildo up your ass fucking match. So they could go out there and do garbage wrestling like all the other indie fucks that look like somebody that ought to be bagging your groceries or changing your oil. And these guys look like something and they're treated like this. It offended me as a goddamn professional. Maybe do this shit with people who can't do anything else. That's what it's there for. That's what garbage hardcore wrestling is. A way for people who have no talent to still participate. The entrance way had a shopping cart with a street sign in it and junk because Tony liked ECW when he was in the basement of his mansion when he was 14. And they had tables wrapped in barbed wire. And they immediately went to the floor and fought up into the stands so they could fight back to the ringside area and use a trash can and a monkey wrench and the chairs and taking bumps on the stair steps and Hobbs bleeding. And then Brian Keith runs in so they can throw him through a table. And then Hobbs hit Big Bill with a backpack full of bricks to get even for when Big Bill hit Hobbs with a backpack full of bricks. And then they fought on the stage. And right at 9:00, Hobbs tried to chokeslam Big Bill off the stairs sitting on the stage through 2 tables on the floor that were wrapped in barbed wire. But Big Bill didn't jump. I think he saw that he was going to fucking overshoot the thing anyway, but regardless, instead of the chokeslam, Hobbs just shoved him off and he cleared one table completely and broke the second one and hit the fucking floor and knocked the shit out of him. And referee Aubrey Ed counted him out and awarded the match to Hobbs, which was apropos she was refereeing for this horse shit. And I will finish with this, the same bad indie outlaw, fake looking bullshit that the pretend indie wrestlers do because they don't have any talent. But it ruins guys like this that could be stars. It gives them bad habits. It makes them look like fake idiots like the rest of these knuckleheads. It's just endless, repetitive horseshit that makes neither guy stand out. And invariably, while they're taking a chance at getting hurt, the things they're trying to do look phony because they're also trying not to kill each other if they can help it. Your thoughts, young Brian Last?
Oh, I don't know how much I could really add to that. It's kind of a weird mid-card feud in the middle of a bigger thing that's played out mostly on Collision. So why not have a street fight on Dynamite? And hopefully everyone moves on from here.
Return to your homes. There's nothing more to see here. Do you think it's almost time, Brian, that either Big Bill or Hobbs or both just go ahead and fold it up on the wrestling business and start a new business, get a new career, start planning for the future when they can't fall off the stage through barbed wire tables anymore?
I mean, I guess they could start considering that. You always want to think about the future, and it's always good to have different revenue streams. I would agree with that.
You got to have something to fall back on, because when Tony Khan's stream turns into him pissing on your head, you need to be able to go home and still make some money, still bring home the bacon, still put the chicken in and fry it up in the pan. I'm getting hungry. Folks, if you'd like to start a restaurant or any other kind of business where you sell things that people would like to buy, whether it be cooked animals that were formerly alive but have now been nullified, or whether it's just a product that maybe you make with your own two hands, or I don't know, sometimes I've heard that people sell their farts bottled up in glass bottles on the internet. I don't know, but I've heard the price is going up. Whatever you want to sell, the people at Shopify can help you find your customers, because they have the number one checkout on the planet. And after all, you want people shopping, but more importantly, you want people paying. Because if they just come in and carry stuff off, you're not going to be in business too long. And if you're an online business, then they're going to theoretically have to just come to your house and just start boxing shit up and carrying it out. And you might not want that to happen. So Shopify will send people to your front door to stand watch and make sure that people don't come in your house and carry off all of your merchandise. They're going to pay for this shit, by God, if they get it, because that's the Shopify way. Right, Brian?
Well, exactly what I don't know if I could say right. I mean, I agree that Shopify is great and they can help you, but based on what you just said, what exactly am I saying right to?
Well, you're just agreeing with me, because everybody knows that Shopify is not only the home of the number one checkout on the planet, but also they boost conversions up to 50%. They keep carts from going abandoned. They feed and clothe them and find them new homes. And if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are, whether it's on the web, in your store, in their various feeds of social consciousness, everywhere in between. You want to hear that sound. That sound means you're making money. And businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. They can take your ideas and concepts and they can build the whole thing out until you're just ubiquitous across the planet, from Maine to Spain on a choo-choo train, or Bolivia to Bangkok. If you're going to bang a cock, let Shopify help you bang it. Upgrade your business right now.
What does that
You
mean?
get the same kind. Well, that means
no. You know, don't. I was asking facetiously. Don't answer that. Don't just keep.
It means, have you priced the banging of cocks?
I think we're talking about chickens, and don't be a chicken. Set up your business spectacularly so that you have a wonderful harvest once all those eggs come in with Shopify.
Yes, and you'll rule the roost with your cock. Upgrade your business. Sign up for a $1 a month trial period right now at shopify.com/JCE. That's all lowercase now. Make sure you do that. Elsewise, there's going to be some terrible punitive action taken against you. Shopify.com/JCE. Upgrade your selling today. Get a great platform, a wonderful checkouts, and they'll take any kind of money or trades, barters. Sometimes in the agricultural state, they'll take beans and corn and trade and then convert it to American currency.
They won't do that. Shopify, being they, will not be doing that. You could do that on your own and then set up your business with Shopify.
Well, yeah, you could sell the corn and the beans then. See? To be double dipping. Shopify.com/JCE, because that's where you know you're going to make some money, honey. Well, what in the world is going on in the Arcadian Vanguard Network programming this week? Oh, boy.
All right in the middle of the Dynamite review, Hello, everyone at AEW. How are you today? This week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, of course, listen to the wrestling news each and every day. Get your wrestling news devoid of opinion, nothing but facts, no clickbait, no paywall, just the wrestling news, wherever you find your favorite podcast, or, of course, directly from thewrestlingnews.com. Want to make mention of Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon, a look at Jim Londas. Hear it today at suawpod.com, and of course, look for the show wherever you find your favorite podcast. And Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam. Continue their look 40 years back, 1985 in the WWF. McAdamPod.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam. Of course, we're on Twitter at Superpodcast, Facebook, Facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard, and the 605 Superpodcast, the Mothership. All right, there was a scream back there. But go through the archive, 605pod. I really felt that one. 605pod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The 605 Super Podcast. And thank you to everyone who's been listening to all the shows on Arcadian Vanguard.
The Mothership.
Baby.
By the way, is that like, is the Arcadian Vanguard like some other things in Ontario, devoid in Ontario? You said they were devoid of opinion.
No, we have, the wrestling news is devoid of opinion, the broadcast that is only facts, and we actually have a very strong presence in Ontario. Thank you very much.
So it's better to be devoid than just void.
Depends on what you believe in. You know,
depends on devoid.
You could be a voidoid or you could be DEVO.
All right. Well, we are Devo. I can't watch the Tony Storm promo. This is just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Tell me it's not just ridiculous.
It's one of those things that we complained about early on in AEW. I'll say that we complained because that's what it was. And even before AEW, the thing that gets over, what do we call it? The ironic wrestling fan.
Yes.
The fan that wants to feel like they're in on the thing.
Something.
Again, we saw what the ratings were for her match, for the title match where she won the title. But what did you think of this?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm sitting there listening to her talk like that. I hit the button. I can't. I'm sorry. It's just ridiculous. All of this stuff is like, kids in drama school somewhere or in acting school or some kind of school trying to audition for different shit. You got first she has amnesia. Now she's back to doing the fucking takeoff on Gloria Swanson and Sunset Boulevard or whatever the fuck's going on. And I'm not interested. It's silliness to me. And if that audience likes it, unfortunately, they'll do more of it. And that's why they've got 500,000 people watching it. And no more, because that's the only amount of people who's not going to go, what the fuck is this silly shit? So that was what I thought about the Tony Storm in-ring promo.
With the return of Luther.
Oh, and that fat fuck. Jesus Christ. Has anybody ever leached more money off of the wrestling business than just in 5 years of AEW with Brandon Cutlet, that Michael Nakazawa that they finally got rid of, and Luther? Just because he's friends with Jericho, just because somebody's friends with somebody, they get jobs for 6 figures to wander around and stink the joint out.
Did they get rid of Nakazawa?
Well, he hadn't been on TV. I'm sure, he might still be up Kenny's crack.
He was Kenny's assistant. Wasn't that his real job?
Well, what does Kenny need an assist with?
Well, he could have used an assist with making the video game, but apparently that wasn't one of Nakazawa's specialties.
Apparently at Nakazawa, all of his specialties involve baby oil. We've come to that conclusion from watching television.
Well, let's slide on into the next segment.
Sliding on into the next segment, Renee is back there with Willow, who's mad at the Boar Horseman because of what Marina Shafir did. So Marina Shafir comes in and beats the shit out of Willow with the briefcase. And then they walk out into the arena with Wheelie and Claudio. And Dick the Boozer starts cutting that promo on Edge. and life in general. And again, he's twitching, he's snorting, he's making weird movements that one would imagine he is attempting to make you, in the course of his character presentation, believe that he's goddamn tweaking out on some kind of fucking homemade meth. Is that that's the vibe I'm getting?
He's reverted back. He's reverted back. If you remember when he first came in, he wore the vest and he would kind of do the Bez from Happy Monday's shoulders moving walk thing. He's doing all that stuff again. The funny walk, the vest, the screaming and foaming at the mouth over nothing. He's reverting back, even though he's in this other group, he's reverting back to what he was at the start. I don't mean that I don't mean that as some deep thing. I just mean it sucks.
Well, no,
I mean back then.
We are Devo. He's going backwards into shit that isn't any good. But speaking of shit that isn't any good, as he cuts his promo on Edge, then music plays, and here comes Light Switch Jay White. And he's going to come out and have something to say about this. But remember now that the four heels are in the ring, but there's another one. Pac is with this group every once in a while when he bothers to fly into the country. So Pac is walking out behind Jay White like he never noticed he was there. He's only 10 feet behind him. And then Edge's music.
The only guy never wearing clothes.
Well, yeah, you know, you could see him a mile away because he don't want to cover that physique up. That's the only thing he's got going for him. And then Edge's music plays. And the promo that Moxley had just done was like, Edge isn't even here tonight. So now they play Edge's music, and Edge appears in the ring behind Moxley, and they get in a fight. And then the baby faces actually, for once, beat up the fucking heels in this case. The Boar Horsemen were actually on the losing end of this thing. And then Edge pulled out a bat with spikes sticking out of the end of it. I mean, hundreds of spikes. And I swear to God, I almost could see him flapping in the fucking breeze when he'd swing it like they were rubber. Hey, but go ahead.
Remember last week, because you didn't see it, remember I told you on Dynamite that Edge and Jay White kidnapped they stole the briefcase with the belt, and they got it in the ring, and their attempt to break it open was to swing that thing, which they pulled out from under the ring, to break it open as if that would ever happen. But that's where we first saw that, apparently. I thought it was a throwback to WWE, and we heard from people that said we've never seen that before, ever.
No, they wouldn't have that on the WWE television to begin with. And this thing looked ridiculous. And besides that, they're horrible criminals because you can't break into a metal briefcase by smashing it flat. You have to pry it open. You're going the other way. But nevertheless, he's swinging this thing at Moxley, and Moxley is ducking, and so Edge can hit the steps or the ring post or whatever. And Moxley ran off, but the fans didn't care. There was mild amusement. It's fake as fuck. Fake as fuck. And it's just ridiculous visually. It's like trying to get somebody mad by showing them a fucking silent Keystone Cops comedy. It's just fucking slapstick. And then Edge cut the promo in the crowd with the fans around him on Moxley and said he's going to take out the Boar Horsemen one by one until he gets to Moxley. So they're doing that again, where he's gonna. But is this the young, exciting new baby face that they're grooming to conquer the Boar Horsemen? Edge is 53 years old. He's the only one that they're selling for. What is happening here, Brian?
That was one of my thoughts too. This can't all be done to give Edge the rub. Now, Edge has been choked out by Moxley multiple times, including as they finished in the tag match last week in Australia. Based on Tony's booking and classic booking, you would almost think he has to win the belt from Moxley at the pay-per-view. I told you my fears about Christian cashing in. But again, he shouldn't be the guy. If you've been doing all this and spending all this time with Jon Moxley it has to be someone to get that win where the rub from whatever that means will last a long time and help someone, not someone who's ridiculous out of nowhere, not like a Wheeler Yuta, not a Daniel Garcia, not an Orange Cassidy, but it should be used to help someone get elevated. And it doesn't, right now, who's that going to be?
But anyway, we move on. Dynamite rolls on because a lot of people were talking about this. Even Uncle Dave had to make mention of it and how really just horribly awkward it looked. And I don't know who was confused at what, but the one thing Uncle Dave hasn't done is presided over a wrestling school. I have. I can't believe that this happened with people that had been in any type of wrestling training situation more than 3 or 4 months. I'm still grasping for a solution. There was a match between Megan Bayne and Chris Statlander, and now poor Statlander, she was the big girl that had all the promise and potential once she moved from Alpha Centauri back to the planet Earth. But now they found, well, it's a long way off. But they found this wildebeest, Megan Bayne, that's 3 inches taller than Statlander. It has a tan and bigger boobs. And so now, I guess Megan is the new toy, and Statlander had to put her over. But nevertheless, Megan Bayne won, and Penelope Pitstop is apparently affiliated with Megan Bayne, and she helped out in this victory because they're the heels. And then they start beating up Statlander, getting heat after the match. And Thunder Rosa comes running out to make the save with a chair and slides in the ring and draws back. And not only did the heels not run, but Penelope Pitstop did not hide behind the big girl Megan Bayne, because now they're trying to recreate the Mercedes Moon and Camille dynamic with Megan Bayne and Penelope. We'll see if they can get it right this time. Off to a rocky start. Penelope stands in front of the big bodyguard girl and says, "Come on, do something about it," to Thunder Rosa, who's standing there with a chair. So Thunder Rosa is trying to advance on them without doing it because they're not backing up. And there's the awkwardness of that. And then Rosa draws back the chair and starts to swing at Megan Bayne, who doesn't move a muscle. And Thunder Rosa has to pull up and not do it. Now she's deader than 4 o'clock, flatter than a plate full of piss. And the heels are just laughing at her. And the referee has to get in between them and is telling the heels, you go that way. And he's trying to help hold Rosa back so she doesn't get any more buried than she already was. It would be hard to. You'd come out the other side of the earth. And I couldn't figure out what the fuck. At one point, Penelope grabbed the chair and they had a tug of war. She was trying to take it away and Rosa wouldn't let go of it. And then finally, when the heels got out of the ring and were walking down the entranceway, not that far away, Thunder Rosa threw the chair at them. And I wrote, was there a fight in the locker room about this afterwards that hadn't been publicized? Or are the two heels just this fucking stupid? Or was this a personal issue where they decided to, basically start a fucking fight? I can't believe there wasn't one, a real one, on national television. There is no explanation. If they knew, I'm trying to figure that.
There's nothing, because even if she was going to do a run-in without the chair, they would have left the ring or something. It was almost like they either didn't expect her to do a run-in and therefore didn't react to it, or They decided they weren't going to react to whatever Thunder Rosa did.
Well, but not even because, okay, let's say that in the finish they were supposed to just get heat and suddenly Tony from Gorilla said, Thunder Rosa, run in. Here comes a babyface with a chair and she's fucking drawing it back. You've got to back up, even if the bodyguard, shouldn't back up. Then me and Big Bubba, Dusty comes in with a chair. I would grab Bubba and I would pull him out because I'm in control of him. Penelope could pull her big bodyguard out to live or fight another day. But that's if are they just making finishes up now? You said they knew she was going to run in, but maybe didn't know she'd have a chair. If somebody suggested that she run in alone against the two heels, one the big newcomer, the first thing, if I was the babyface, I would have said was, I need to bring something, like a chair. So if they knew the run-in was coming and they knew she was going to have a chair, did they not walk through the rest of it? Like, we need to get that's the first thing I learned when I got in the wrestling business. If you are the heel and the babyface is hitting the ring to make a save, if you don't get out of the way, it's your fucking fault. What happens? And in those days, the baby faces were trying to catch you because they wanted to fucking not look like idiots and it looked like they were doing something and get a fucking pop. So you had to really fucking exit quickly. And there's no, and again, if they knew she was coming, they knew she was coming with a chair and they were supposed to bail and she didn't, then she should have hit him because that's the second thing I learned. If you're coming into the goddamn ring and the fucking heels don't move, hit the motherfuckers. Because then you end up like Thunder Rosa. You look like a complete fucking befucking foon.
Where was Statlander?
She was selling. She was safe. She was out of it. She couldn't get any on her. She's probably looking up going, what the fuck? But there is no explanation. And that Rosa didn't just go ahead and hit these two with the chair is stunning. Yeah, that's what would have happened in any other era.
She ran out there with so much enthusiasm, like with the chair.
Yeah.
Like, ah! And then she had a standoff where she had a chair and they had their faces.
Yes.
She didn't move.
And they're just laughing at her. And then, and I'm not saying that somebody would have hauled off with a killer blow the first time, although many people would have, but at the very least, you would have got one working shot that you had the opportunity to sell before the second one came, and you were going to sell that regardless, unless you were ready to fight and take the chair away from the motherfucker. But none of that happened because they're so goddamn lost out there anyway these days. They don't know what to fucking do. And I'm sorry, but if Thunder Rosa didn't go back and punch Penelope in the fucking face, even Megan, I might could understand. She's the big girl. Penelope, if she didn't punch her, then I have no respect for Thunder Rosa. Because that's the same thing as pissing on somebody in front of their fucking family.
And you keep saying her bodyguard. Did they establish that? Because this is the first time I saw Megan Bain with Penelope.
That's what it was looking like. What else would be the? You think fucking Penelope's going to fight Megan Bain's battles? So, but the whole thing, it was odd because they should have known what was going to happen. They did the exact opposite of anything they should have done with what was happening in front of them. And then we didn't hear about a big goddamn fight and cussing match taking place afterwards. So are these girls smart enough to know when they're supposed to be offended? I don't fucking know.
Well, we'll see what we hear. But that was a very interesting, awkward segment.
And then speaking of awkward, I don't know about interesting, Ricochet did a promo in the ring. And he's stolen Prince Nana's robe from the embassy, and he's wearing the robe. And he was the biggest heel so far on the show with the crowd there live, but I'm not sure it's because it wasn't really a great heel promo. I think people just don't fucking like him. But then Nana came out. And for once, they let Nana speak. And they explained something. He came out and he said, I told Swerve to stay home so that you and I could speak one-on-one, Ricochet. Now, Of course, that doesn't explain necessarily why he told Swerve to stay home, because Nana's 0 for life amongst people one-on-one when he's interacting physically with any other person. But nevertheless, he told the story. The robe doesn't belong to Ricochet. The robe, Nana finally got to put himself over. And he did a pretty decent promo about how much the robe meant to him and what it meant and what it stood for and who could wear the robe and the honor it bestowed on him. And Ricochet doesn't deserve it. And Nana says, give the robe back. Reminded me of put the candle back. Give the robe back. And Ricochet said, I think you need to take it. And then he just basically told Nana, you're not getting this robe back. And then he turned around and left with the robe. So,
and he made his little noise too, like, ah!
Yeah. So that matter is solved. Nana ain't getting the robe back. End of story. Let's move on.
But again, it was a good promo, but the idea that it ended with, do the right thing and give this back. Do the right thing, Mr. Stab everyone in the head with scissors and give me back my clothing. How did they think this would go?
But then it's like the ending shouldn't. You're not getting this robe back unless you take it from me. Let Nana try to take it. Give him 1.5 things of offense on surprise, and then let Ricochet get some heat on him, and then let Swerve be mad and come back to get even about it. But he said, no, fuck you. I'm going to walk right out of here with your shit. You ain't going to do goddamn nothing about it, even though you're a grown man. Fuck you. And he left with the robe. And then we went to the main event, and this won't take long, and we'll get to the ratings, because the main event, it's back. It's back. Just when we thought it was safe to watch television, the company mascot is back. Our little puppy Pockets wrestled Roderick Strong in the main event of a show that's been losing viewers like the Titanic was taking on water over the last few months, and they thought it'd be a good idea to put this fucking clown. And Roddy and Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly were baby faces 3 weeks ago, and now Roddy is wrestling this fucking idiot who's allegedly a baby face also. And it started at 15 minutes till 10 and still ran over. And of course, I'm not going to try to seriously critique a match involving Pockets, which would be like trying to do a scholarly dissertation of a fucking cat's shit. But at 1 minute after, just so they could say they ran over, Pockets, quote unquote, hit Roderick Strong with a Superman punch that didn't come within a foot of him. And there was no doubt. It was the hard camera shot right there. It was a sideways angle. There wasn't no mistaken that it's just so fake and silly and stupid. These clownish indie jackoffs that get featured on this program in this middle of this mayhem. 1, 2, 3 beat Roderick Strong. And then Shivani comes in the ring to interview the cretinous little fucking weasel. But here comes Don Fallis out with Take a Shit and what's his name? Mark Davis, Kyle Davis, Sammy Davis. What is Mark Davis?
Mark Davis.
And they jumped on Pockets and got some really brief, sorry, bad, phony looking heat. And then here came Kenny. Kenny came out and he made a save, but then they stopped him and got some fake looking heat on him. But then the baby faces made a comeback again, and the heels rolled out and stood in the entranceway 10 feet away from them, and nothing else happened. And 5 minutes later, after the 5 minutes of the overrun, 5 minutes after the hour, they were off the air. Why would you, again, you're struggling to keep the viewers that you're getting, and you put that on last to tell people, okay, it's all, 20 minutes, fuck it, I'm done.
Hey, also, listen, Kenny Omega, one of their bigger stars, Surprise appearance. Why wouldn't you have him do something you could build up and announce to your fans?
Because he could save a fucking string bean that's lucky that he could get a job parking cars at a wrestling event. He'd come out and save his ass.
Well, that was Dynamite. And good news, we said that it'll probably be any day now that Pockets returns. Tony likes to cycle people in and out. I'm sure Jungle Jack and the Bucks will be back anytime now.
Yeah, they'll be back on their cycle.
But Jim, do you want to talk ratings?
Sure I do. What did anybody watch this journey through hysteria?
This journey through hysteria, otherwise known as AEW Dynamite on TBS, Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, 8 to 10:05 p.m. According to WrestleNomics, 563,000 viewers on average.
Ouch. They've been up around 600 the past 2 or 3 weeks, right?
Well, actually, this is down 3% from last week, which was 579. The trailing 4-week average is 611. So 8%
That's right.
That.
Last week was below 6 because the previous couple of weeks had been 6.
Right.
And now this is even worse.
There was like a 604, a 605, and then this week.
Yeah, so they're going in a southerly direction with these numbers.
Once again, a note: this does not include max viewership, which I'm sure is in the millions.
So wait a minute. So instead of 563,000, it's 563,386.
Well, Jim, let's go to the quarterly breakdown. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The MJF Adam Page live confrontation. 664,000 viewers.
Ooh, okay. Therein lies a bit of a tale. That's a much lower than they've been starting with traditionally until recent times, and still not a really good opening number. So the good news is they can't lose 75% of their audience like they did on Collision.
That's right. And I'll just say it here too. Every single quarter appears to be off the trend line of 90 days. So everything appears to be a little lower than that. Quarter 2, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. The continuation of MJF and Adam Page, now with Christopher Daniels. A recap, an ad break, the Undisputed Kingdom backstage promo. We didn't even talk about that. Is Adam Cole on the gas? His arms all of a sudden have some size. Did you notice that?
I honestly, I think I was trying to get some distance between me and MJF and Page, and I overlooked it.
Next time you see him in a promo backstage where he's like from the waist up, look at his arms. Because when you see him at ringside, he just looks like a little guy running around. But quarter 2 that, and then the beginning of the Patriarchy versus the Ops. 565,000 viewers.
So automatically 100,000 go away, but now we're down to the faithful. They can't make their average and lose very much more through the course of the program, but they're already under 600,000 people in the second quarter.
Well, we go now to quarter 3, the continuation of the Patriarchy versus the Ops from 8:30 to 8:45 with picture-in-picture and an ad break. 554,000 viewers.
Yeah, so they're down 11,000. Now it's going to just kind of trickle.
We go now to quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The Chris Jericho backstage promo and the street fight with Big Bill versus Powerhouse Hobbs with picture-in-picture. 589,000 viewers.
Okay, so they picked up 35,000. That's unusual to actually gain in the middle of the program.
And because
I don't want to attribute that to Jericho in a 90-second backstage interview, but maybe there's still some interest in Hobbs.
And that's something to just point out because the key demo, the previous segment, 212,000 viewers. Hobbs versus Big Bill, 248. So that's the only
That's almost
match.
The entire difference.
Yeah, I think that's the only match that picked up any number in the key demo at all. And then after it goes to 222. But we go now to the big 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m., quarter 5. Lance Archer and Brian Cage's backstage promo, Tony Storm's live promo, an ad break, the ridiculous Willow Nightingale getting attacked by Marita Shafir segment, Then the Death Riders Cope Jay White live angle, 548,000 viewers.
Good Lord. So, with the world champion of this popsicle stand involved in all this shit and the top of the at 9 o'clock hour, and they lose 41,000 people, and it's the lowest quarter yet.
Well, we go now to quarter 6, 9:15 and 9:30 p.m. The Cope live promo in the crowd, the Mercedes Moné backstage promo, and the start of Megan Bayne versus Chris Statlander with picture-in-picture, 566,000 viewers.
Good Lord, the girls' match picked up 18,000 people from the world champion.
Hey, you know, we spent so much time talking about the Thunder Rosa angle of it. Beyond that, Megan Bayne stands out. She's got size, she's got a look, she's got a demeanor. You know, I don't know if she could do a 20-minute match or anything, but
There's something there to build on if you knew how to build.
yeah, compared to a lot of the other women that just pop up in AEW, Momo, whatever her name was, sitting at ringside,
Momo Giancana.
she stands out. So again, I don't know about what happened with the Thunder Rosa thing, but back to this. We gave that number 566. Quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The post-match with Penelope Ford, Thunder Rosa, and Thunder Rosa. Max Caster's in a separate segment. Max Caster promo, the Ricochet Prince Nana confrontation, and an ad break. 547,000 viewers.
And they lost everything they picked up in quarter 6 plus 1,000 more people. Now they're down to 547.
And we go to the main event, the big return of Orange Cassidy, the man who we've been told for so long is one of their biggest stars, that he does great in the ratings, the key demo. Quarter 8, I remind you, we have a 5-minute overrun. Roderick Strong versus Orange Cassidy, 9:45 to 10 p.m. with picture-in-picture. 507,000 viewers. Drops under 200 for the key demo at 196. 5-minute overrun, 467.
Oh, Jesus. So they not only managed to lose 40,000 more people in regulation for putting this buggy whipped armed imbecile on television, but they lost another 40,000 for a total of 80,000 from the time that they first saw the guy until the end of the finish of his match in the overrun. And they only started with 664,000 people and managed to finish by losing almost 200,000. 197 to be exact. Ooh.
Well, there's always next week.
Not always. At some point, the meteor hits the fucking planet and everything is sent out of orbit. Yeah. Can this continue where next year at this time we're talking about, wow, they actually cracked 500,000 and got more than that, but they finished up with 300,000? Because last year they were starting with 800 and 900 and finishing with 600 and 700. Now they're starting with 600 and 700 and finishing with 400 and 500. How low can you go?
I think there's a trend line for the last few years, and you would have to believe they're going to be in the 400s regularly within the next 18 months.
I'm still dying for somebody to tell us whether there's a performance clause in their big multi-$100 million contract that says that if 14 people and somebody committed to a state home are the only audience for this program, we don't have to pay you $100 million anymore.
I still want to hear from someone that they're at a deal memo, that they actually have a finished signed deal. But who knows?